All right, we're gonna be ready in a minute. Everybody stay cool. Thank y'all for tuning in. Jamil Salibs and me out of Manning, South Carolina. Shout out to Dale Castro Powell. Uh, we'll be coming on in a minute. Let me get this intro popping, and then please like and share this if you can. If you can like and share this, do that, please. We are broadcasting live on the 19 Report on Jamil Salibs Amir on Facebook, and also on the 19 Report on YouTube, and then we're broadcasting live on Instagram for a reason. So thank everybody for tuning in. This might get a little long, but it has to be long because this is just how serious this is at this point in time, because we're losing connections with ourselves and we're losing connections with our ancestors, and because we're replacing our Black suffering with Caucasian paganistic ideas. If it is something of another race, Hispanic, if you celebrate Hispanic Day, or if you celebrate a Roman Catholic holiday, that's fine, whatever. But when you start to have someone hijack your suffering, your pain of your ancestors, and you're burying our ancestors, putting them in a grave and saying they don't count, they don't matter. I actually went to a watch night service where the preacher, Black church preacher, really downplayed the importance of Black people and downplayed suffering and downplayed slavery. So we're going to go into it today because I have to. Got a lot to read. We're going to go with the intro. We'll be right back. Facebook, Instagram, Yahoo.
Tell me like it is, and not like it was. Tell me like it is, and not like it was. Tell me like it is.
All right, I'm back. Jamil Salibs and me out of Manning, South Carolina. Sincerely thanking everyone for tuning in. First of all, I want to show you my my garb that I have on. This was sent to me by Farouk Abdul Matali. Farouk, forgive me if I can't pronounce your last name correctly, but isn't this beautiful? It feels so good on my skin. Makes me look real, African. Udabo. Udabo. Yeah. I don't know what the Kwanzaa term is for the day. I think it's umaji. But anyway, I'm going to correct that in a few minutes. Thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salibs and me out of Manning, South Carolina. Got on my solid gold frames. I don't wear these often because I don't want to scratch them, but I had to wear them with my attire that was given to me by Farouk Abdullah Matule, one of my best friends in the whole United States of the world, on earth, in here today, near the water and the oceans. So I thank you for it. Got on my custom-made jewelry today, custom-made necklace. We're going to get into this topic right now. And first of all, I want to thank everybody on social media. I know I was on yesterday. If you missed that broadcast, please go back and check it out again. To all the women that may have heard it or may have seen the title and took offense to it, please don't take offense to it. Try to listen to what I'm saying before you take offense to it, because the warnings are coming now. And someone has to be the warner in regards to our people. I'll be looking up top at my monitor every now and then sometimes I will be looking down bottom at my monitor. Right now, I want to go up top because I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. I want to read something real quickly to you. This is in regards to the Watchman. Now, we're talking about watch night service. That'll be the thing we're talking about, but I want to bring this and several other topics up very quickly if we can. Now, I want to read this from Ezekiel 33 of the New International Version of the Bible. I'll be reading from 2 to 7 probably very quickly. Let's get into that right now. And all of this is relevant. Please stay tuned because I have a point to make. We're losing our energetic connection to our people, our energetic connection to family, our energetic connection to God. When someone introduces you to their culture and you accept their culture and ignore your culture, you're leaving your energy behind and substituting energy from someone else. Therefore, you can never live the proper life for yourself, your family, your people, because you're living in someone else's reality. That's what we're doing. If you look at the churches, they're falling apart. The young are leaving. Many of the churches will not open after the pandemic. They're gone. That's it. They won't be coming back because there's no young people to take the place, because the church, unfortunately, has been filled with misinformation, lies, and buffoonery. But the church is our connection to civility. The church is. And the truth of why we connected with the church in the way we did. Never mind that we were introduced to a Caucasian Jesus. That's not ours. That's Caucasians people Jesus. That's fine. Christ said, render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give him what's his. But then you find what's yours. We find what's ours. This is not hate talk. White folks don't even want you around them much because we're making a mess out of life, trying to live their reality. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to learn from them. So I respect them and I want to learn from them, and I want to bring my assets and the assets of my family to the society, to America, and make it a better place. We're not trying to destroy it. We're trying to find our own reality. Do you understand that? Do you understand that, Instagram? Understand that. I know you'll say you overstand, but I would rather push something up a hill than to pull it. I don't know where we got that overstand from. We just be thinking of some of the craziest mess. But anyway, Ezekiel 33, listen to it. The words of the Lord came to me. Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against the land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people, then if any hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet, since they heard the truth, but did not heed the warning of the truth, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, does not tell the people the truth, to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchmen accountable for their blood. So whoever knows truth and does not tell truth, they're held accountable for every single person that dies. Gang member, rapist, murderer who is not told the truth, who does not understand truth. If we do not tell it, the blood of them is on us. You can walk around all day, preacher, minister, pastor, evangelist, holy person, thinking because you talk Jesus, 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 that you're saving the people, but you are not warning the people. You're not giving them the information necessary for them to make an intelligent, conscious decision. What we call in biblical text using discernment and saying, since she, he, they said that, I'm going to make an intelligent decision to reverse my path. So since you are telling them everything is all right, Jesus died for your sins, you don't have to worry about nothing, I'm going to be at your house tomorrow because I know where some of y'all live. I know what time you go to work. I'm coming to get your TV, all your money, your guns, your jewelry, and you better not call the police because you said Jesus died for my sins and I ain't got to worry about nothing. You see how idiotic that sounds? You see how crazy that sounds when you put it into context? Don't make sense. You telling me if I rape your wife, rape your daughter, you're going to forgive me and I'm going to heaven because Jesus died for my sins? That's not a very studious watch person, watch woman, watchman. Number 7, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel, black people. So hear the word I speak and give them warning from me. When I say to the wicked, you wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not speak out to dissuade them from their ways, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. But if you do the wicked person to turn from their ways, and they do not do so, they will die for their sins, though you yourself will be saved. This is where we are. We need people who are going to tell the truth, who are going to risk it all for truth, who are going to say truth is more important than friendship, false friendship. Truth is more important than lies. This is what we're saying. So I thank you for tuning in today to this installment of the night of Telling It Like It Is with Jamil Salib Zamir. Started out with myself, then I included my wife, and she backed out on me. She reneged on me. And then Dale Castro Powell and myself picked up the baton probably about 10 years after I started. This is a part of the Community of Concerned Citizens, a community-based nonprofit organization registered with the state of South Carolina, where we try to introduce truth into the psyche, the psychological damage done to us. We introduce truth. It's almost like psychology, and a truth into the minds of the people that we will be able to make an intelligent decision. And not only that, we have events locally, and we're working on several other things to try to get the young people involved with loving themselves, because right now we're hating ourselves. So let me go into this real quick. I'm coming to a very important point. I'm going to interject a little bit of news real quick if I can. In the last 5 days, there have been, in the last 2 days, there has been 5 earthquakes in Sumter County and surrounding areas. If you are not connected to the energy of the earth, you cannot tell when a shift comes. The purpose of the world being so noisy is to keep us off point, off our dean, to keep us away from feeling and seeing and knowing that something isn't right. So the world is a noisy place. And when the noise stops, the person who has been connected to the earth closer than you probably, you're going to feel their energy the most because it's quiet and their energy has always been loud. The lights went out in Sugar Hill yesterday, and when I came in the house, my son told me, your energy is loud, something's wrong, and it's you're the problem. It's something you're going with, you're dealing with. This has been me all my life. But when it's noisy, and he always got headphones on, always talking, always never quiet. That's why I love quiet. I'm talking about all of us. 5 earthquakes in 2 days. Let me see, magnitude 2.5. It says the largest earthquake event in South Carolina occurred on August 31st, 1886. In the Somerville, Charleston area, and the earthquake was a 7.3. It actually killed 60 people. Since 1886, this type of event has not happened. We had 5 in the last few days, which, if you're energetic and connected with our ancestors and the earth, you felt that. We were in Sumter the other night. I felt that. And I saw a situation unfolding. My wife and son and I went to, and I'm going to keep this short. We went to the mall to get, my son wanted some Chinese food out of the mall. When we pulled up, I noticed some individuals in the parking lot over to my right. I felt very uneasy about them. My wife went to walking in the building. She ain't paying attention to nothing. I'm trying to watch her and trying to watch my son, who's getting out of the car too slow, putting on his belt. And I'm fussing at him about, get yourself together, because I always tell him, stay with your mother. She should not be walking ahead of you. You should be walking right beside her, in front of her a little bit. That's security. That's how we are trained. That's how we were taught. He gets upset with me, tells me, go on, get on, go on. And he gets back in the car. I'm walking into the Jasmine Mall, but I'm feeling uneasy. These gentlemen over to my right. We get back in the car. They follow us. My wife and son, they don't know nothing about that because they don't feel the energy. They don't know. They follow us. We go to the gas pump in front of Walmart in Sumter to get gas. They pull up right beside us. But their gas tank is on the passenger side. So the way they pulled up to the pump, they didn't pull up there to get no gas. Situation unfolds. I got out of the car. I did a few things, prepare myself to get ready just in case. I stood by my wife outside the car. My son is in the car. He pouting. And I tell him, no matter what your mental state is at the time, you watch your mother. Talking about the watchman. Talking about WatchNight service. I'm coming to a point. But I got to give you scenarios of my own life. I feel the energy. Beanie Siegel said he could feel it in the air. I felt it. So, dude rolls down the window of the car. I step back. Hey, he says, hey, can you do something for me? He asked me to do something. I leaned in the car a little bit, scope out the area, see what they got going on. I went in, I did this thing for him, but while I'm doing it, my wife is steady running her mouth, loud, running her mouth. I'm trying to stay focused, so I'm talking to my other son on the phone because he keeps me calm when we talking, because I do the same for him. He don't know I know it, but when he going to do something, he always call me and make up conversation. We talking. I'm watching him. So I get outside and I gave him what I had to give him. He didn't even pay me no attention. He didn't do that for me to get what he asked for. That was the test. So when I handed it to him, he didn't pay me no attention. Then he looks up and said, oh, hey, thanks, Unc. Damn, who is this? I don't know this person. My wife steady running her mouth. I ain't say a word. I'm talking to my son on the phone. We pull out of the parking lot. They pull out behind us and go to the driver's side where my wife is at the light. I'm thinking my son is in the back. My wife is driving the car. I'm going to have to pull her down towards me if they start shooting. What am I going to do with my son in the back seat? So I'm holding all of this, trying to figure this thing out. They pull off. The energy level in me drops immediately. I get the worst pain, like I'm having a heart attack. My wife's still running her mouth. I'm over here literally having a heart attack, and my left kidney like it's about to fail, and I'm thinking, they don't even know what kind of danger we may have been in just now. But that's the job of a watchman. You must stay alert. The young say keep your head on a swivel, but that's the job. Earthquakes, the energy, everything has shifted in Sumter, Manning, Columbia, and surrounding areas. You talk about demonic. There is some demonic energy moving around right about now. So I encourage people, I know you're going to go out tonight to celebrate, and you're celebrating incorrectly, most of you, and most of you really off point. And the ancestors are staring in their grave, my point. The earth is shifting because the ancestors are not pleased. With the death, the census killing, they're not pleased. Let's go on. Magnitude 5 earthquakes hit since December 27th in the Sumter and surrounding areas. Now I want to read this, and we're going to get into our point of the purpose of night watch service. We're going to go into Matthew 26, 36 through 46. And the reason I go into the Bible is because our people are obsessed with it. Biblical text is our life. And since it's our life, then we need to really learn how to use it wisely. I'm going to read this 36 to 46 of the Bible. This is in relation to what happens when the watchman does not do their job. Death ensues. Death comes once those who say they were placed in the position to do God's work do not do the work. And this is what's happening with the night watch service, because it's been taken totally out of context. But let's do this. Matthew 26, 36 through 46. I'm reading up top. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. Either it's Gethsemane or Gethsemane, one or the other. And he said to his disciples, listen, sit here while I go over there and pray. And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. The other day I was sorrowful and very troubled. Many of us very sorrowful, very troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me. And going a little farther, he fell on his face. Now, Jesus took the three people that he thought would be loyal to him, would be as diligent as he is. But look what happens. And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Jesus went up on the mount praying that God would not put death on him, because he did not want to die for a people who would take out of context his teaching, who would take out, and I'm not talking about the white Jesus. Now that's white people's Jesus. Japanese got a Jesus. Everybody got one except for us. And the book says if they be for you, they won't be against you. So if we all on the same path, then what's the problem? You saying your white Jesus better than my black one? I'm saying my black one better than your Japanese one. What's the problem? God does not clash with himself. God did not send any prophet or messenger to clash with his ideology, which is universal law. What's the problem? White folks, what's the problem? Black folks who adore white folks so much that you don't even see yourself. You're so busy trying to be them. I want to be black and hang with white folks. I want to be black and hang with Mexicans and Arabs and Japanese and Chinese, Spanish. Nothing wrong with that. God made us into a rainbow of people to love each other, not to hate one another. Don't take what I say out of context, please. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not playing with you. This is no game. This ain't no verbal hustle. I'm not trying to win friends and influence people, Dale Carnegie. I'm telling you what God is telling me straight up. I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I love my race, and I'm racist in that context. But there's no white person on this planet tell you that I said nothing. I mean, no white folks that I've been in contact with. Let's move on. We're almost done. Jesus says, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me. And going a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. See? Y'all say we woke. God says you're not woke. You sleep. You got Jesus right there with you. And all he asked you to do is just watch him while he prayed, and you fell asleep. Y'all got Jesuses among you, people teaching the truth. And all they ask is for protection. Watch over me. And y'all fall asleep. All of the elders are dying, being murdered by these young killers and other things, and y'all fall asleep. They fell asleep one time. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, so could you not watch with me for 1 hour? You mean to tell me you will stay up all night partying and drinking and celebrating a new year, but you can't stay up with God's man for 1 hour? You can't pray to God for 1 hour. You can't strategize for your future as a black man and the future of your children for 1 hour. Jesus says, watch. He went back. 41. Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. That's temptation. You're being tempted. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, for the second time, he went away and prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. And again, he came and found them sleeping again. See, sometimes we think because we talk to our children over and over again that they got the message, and soon as you turn your back, they do the same darn thing that you said, because temptation gets the best of them. Temptation has the church. Temptation has our religious leaders. Temptation has our political leaders. Temptation and desire. They're being tempted. And most of them are taking the bait. And it's easier for them to blame the small, minute person than it is to battle the big person. Watchmen, WatchNight service, we coming. Stay tuned, almost done. Again, he came, he found them asleep. Their eyes were heavy with surgery. You know how you're high, man. Yo, nigga, yo. We might be about to die, nigga, but I feel good. Nigga, I'm high. Nigga, shit, nigga, blasted. You know how we do. I ain't pretending. I know how it go. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words again. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, go ahead and sleep. Sleep and take your rest later on. Go on. Do it then. Because they've been asleep again. See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of the sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. Jesus is telling them, man, God dog, I'm telling y'all I'm getting ready to die. And y'all sleeping. I'm telling y'all that I'm getting ready to die and you all are asleep. Now let's get into the topic. One more thing I wanted to say. I contacted the police department. I contacted the sheriff's department. I contacted some people I know in the fire department, and I contacted SLED. And I asked what the laws were for shooting guns up in the air in the community. And ironically, so far, because I haven't gotten a call back yet, the laws are very iffy. It's not saying don't do it, but then it's saying don't do it. Because if your bullet penetrates a person's home, then you're going to be charged with shooting into a dwelling, an occupied dwelling. I think that's a felony. But the main reason I warn every year about shooting in the air is because what goes up must come down. With the same velocity that it went up, it will come down. The breeze from coming down may slow it a little, but it's still going to be a very effective projectile to take a life. We were in the country one year and it started raining metal balls. And we didn't understand what it was, but it was actually somebody shooting a 12-gauge shotgun, and the bullets and the pellets had come all the way, and it was just raining metal balls. Cracked the windshield. It has been registered that people are dying because you're shooting in the air and the bullets are coming through rooftops, killing babies, killing people in cars. I mean, just do not shoot in the air. If you can get near some water, I'm not advising it because there may be pipes down in there, but you do better to shoot at the water or shoot at a solid tree object if you're in a place where shooting is allowed. But try your best not to shoot up in the air anymore. Not just for New Year's, anymore. Because these high caliber 226, 5.57, these bullets can travel miles before they fall. That's the work of a watchman, to warn you. Now let's get into this very timely topic. I want to read it verbatim, and I'm going to skip a few parts. We call it night watch service. Excuse me. I went off. I'm sorry. We call it watch night service. I haven't been in a church in a long time, so I don't know how the watch night service is executed. What's its main purpose, main topic? But I want to read to you today the reason of watch night service and its connection to our ancestors, and why we may be experiencing 5, 6, 7, 8 earthquakes, because the universal energy of our ancestors and their blood that soaks the South in particular, antebellum South in particular, the segregated South, from the beginning of the 1500s to the time that little George Stinney was murdered and everything in between. You can forget it, but God will not forget it. And if you continue to misdirect the energy of your people to something that is not true, you will be held accountable. You are the watchman. If the people are given the wrong message and they die, their blood is on your hands. Not after death, but while you are still alive. Let's go into this very quickly. And I'm reading this out of the Time magazine. And I want to put this on the board for you to see it so you don't think I'm some kind of nut. Let's go. The slaves dreaded New Year's Day the worst. The grim history of January 1st. I ain't gonna read it all, but I do want you to see the let me bring this down. No, I'll leave it there because now I already got you on it. It says, this is in the Time magazine. All it takes is a little bit of reading. It says, Americans are likely to think of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as a time to celebrate the fresh start that a new year represents, but there is also a troubling side to the holiday history. In the years before the Civil War, the first day of the new year was often heartbreaking, one for enslaved people, and it was also often a heartbreaking one for enslaved people in the United States. Why? In the African American community, in the Black community, New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day. Why? Why was it known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day? Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, there we go. I'll do it like this. As the African American abolitionist journalist William Cooper Neal described it, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve. Listen to this. This is what Watch Night service is all about. The enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them out to someone else, thus potentially splitting up their families. The renting out of slave labor was a relatively common practice in the antebellum South, all the way from South Carolina down Florida, way up Virginia way, and a profitable practice for white slave owners and hirers. Hiring Day was part of the large economic cycle. What was it? It was a part of the economic cycle that put white folks 10 times ahead of us till this day economically. You thinking that they got all this great stuff because they white. They got all this great stuff because we worked for nothing. They broke our families apart. They murdered, raped, robbed us. This is history. No one wants to be reminded of what they did. And the new whites will say, I had nothing to do with that. But you are reaping the rewards from it. My white brothers, blue-eyed brothers and sisters. Everything you got is from heritage, from your lineage from your people handing down all of this wealth that you didn't work for. We did. Now you got a bunch of savages, black folks who don't want to work. We tired of working. We tired of just getting by. We want to scam, get over, rob, kill, murder, sell drugs, sell women, whatever we got to do to make money and not have to work. And all of that evil is going to spill over into your community unless you become a watchman over us too. Because one white person will attract more black people than I could in 10 years. If you say what I'm saying right now, they'll listen to you, white people. They're not going to listen to me. Not officials, not ministers, nobody, not even the street people. They're not going to listen to me. They're going to fall asleep. But if you say it, white people, they'll listen to you. They'll listen to you. You owe us that. I know the 48 laws of power. You ain't supposed to tell nobody what they owe you. You ain't supposed to bring up the past, but we don't have no power. So those laws don't apply. I am talking about universal law. I am talking about God's law, stronger than the 48 laws that man made. So I'll go with the universal law and warn you too. In LA, the gangs are up in Beverly Hills, and FBG Duck got killed in the Gold Coast. They were shooting it out in the sophisticated neighborhoods. Philly, sophisticated neighborhoods. All of the good people, and by good I mean people trying to do different, are dying at the hands of stray bullets. Your turn is coming. They're gonna rob you too. And plus your white folks are robbing too. Y'all just keep it out of the paper. I'm not lying. And this is not racism. Now, hiring day was a part of the larger economic cycle in which most debts were collected and settled on in New Year's Day, says Alexis McCroson, an expert on the history of New Year's Eve. Experts. They have experts examining this stuff. We just guess at stuff and talk a lot. Experts on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. A professor of history at Southern Methodist University who writes about hiring day in her forthcoming book, Time's Touchstone, The New Year in American Life. This is all fact. This is all facts. No cap. I use two words that y'all be using nowadays. Tell me I ain't cool. You ain't telling me I ain't cool. I'm cool. I said facts. And I said no cap. I'm cool. Period. So listen to what I'm trying to tell you by God's permission. Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day. That day. Some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January downtown Manning. There was an auction block there. Downtown Manning. They had movie theaters and stuff that we weren't allowed to come into. And if we did, we had to go up in the balcony. That's the type of stuff that you need to know. Nobody don't tell you, and they will be happy if you don't know. Everything that I talked about is right in line now. This was a dreadful day for us because families were about to be destroyed. And let me ask you something before we close. I got a few more things to say, though. Are our families destroyed? Even though we stay in the church hooping, hollering, flipping, rolling, spitting, shouting, jumping, bouncing, calling on Jesus like you know him, but the book says, how can you love a God that you've never seen and hate your brother who you see every day? Are we at peace with each other? Family members? No, family members don't even talk. I got preachers and pastors in my family. They wouldn't come by to see me unless I was on my deathbed. And if I come to see them, they're going to be looking at me like, what you here for? That's where we are. But we're masters at covering up. We're masters at lying. Our lie is the truth. We're masters at covering up truth to the detriment of generations of people. See, in the church, when a child gets molested, you cover it up. And if they get molested and the preacher get them pregnant, you send them away. You don't think about the mind of that person that was molested and mistreated They're psychologically damaged, but you don't care as long as you can keep the preacher and the house and the family looking good. Same thing with white folks. It trickles down. I want you to make sure that you tell these children, we were losing our families on this day. We were terrified at the end of the year that my newborn child, 2-3 years old, and they're going to take them away before they know who you are, going to be taken away from me. Accounts of the cruelty of hiring day comes from records left by those who secured their freedom. I'm going to say it again. Accounts of the cruelty of hiring day. You in the church on WatchNight making this thing out to be just a feathery day. Oh, and Jesus, but the cruelty. You don't tell your children what their great-grandparents went through. You don't tell them the pain of loss. So now they will take life in an instant like it means nothing. And then their boys will say, free my nigga. What did he do? He killed 5 people, but that's my nigga. Free him. You see how messed up in the head we are? We gone, man. You can't get no more spaced out than the matrix that we were placed in. Let's move on. Accounts of the cruelty of hiring day comes from records left by those who secured their freedom. That means the people who telling you about it are the people who went through it, who described spending the day before January 1st, hoping and praying that their hirers would be humane and that their families could stay together. Do you teach that on WatchNight? Do you? Do you tell them that you in the church hoping and praying that Satan don't take control of your family and destroy your family unit, that they will remain together at least for another year in this hell of a condition we live in? Do you do that? Preachers, pastors, ministers, do you? Congregation, do they do that? And if they don't, then they're not a sufficient watchman. They're entertainers. They're motivational speakers. They don't count in God's kingdom. They're hustlers. What's wrong with telling the truth? Lying is the new normal. Let's go a little bit more, then we're going to close. Of all days in the year, the slaves dread New Year's Day, the worst of any. A slave named Lewis Clark said in an 1842 account, of all days, all of the pain and suffering they went through, of all of it, the slaves dreaded New Year's Day the most. Do we dread it now? No, hell no. We think we free. We gonna party tonight. Bounce, bounce, bouncy, bounce, 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 bounce. We getting down tonight, Jack. We don't dread a damn thing. We dance our way into hell every day of our life and don't think twice about nothing. And you will condemn Jamil today. That nigga always talking that positive shit. Tired of that shit. Yeah. Yes, you will. I'm the bad guy. Because easier. Because you only see one of me, but you better look closer. Before you do something silly, you better look close by Allah's permission. On New Year's Day, we went to the auctioneer's block to be hired to the higher bidder for 1 year. These are the people in their accounts, but I want to close on this. I'm not going to read it all. You can go to the Time magazine and read it for yourself. There is a book, Harriet Jacobs wrote a particular detailed account in the slave's New Year's Day chapter of her 1861 autobiography and cite incidents in the life of a slave girl. I mean, heavy duty material that you can use. But then they started calling, I want to read this. The federal ban on the transatlantic slave trade went into effect on New Year's Day in 1808. When did the federal ban on slavery went into effect? 1808. And African-American communities did celebrate, but the festivities were short-lived. Different slave trade, abolition Commemorations took place between 1808 and 1831, but they died out because the domestic slave trade was so vigorous, says McCrossin. The risk of violence was also too great. For example, on New Year's Eve in 1827 in New York City, where the niggas say don't nothing touch them in New York, a white mob attacked African-American congregants and vandalized their church. When I was in New York in 89, the Klan wanted to march through Harlem. The black folks said, come on through. We need some new sheets. Bring the best you got, silk, ray, all of it. They changed their mind on that one. They ain't marched that day. But don't you take the Klan for granted. I'm going to post up something in a minute. The holiday became more associated with freedom than slavery when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in Confederate states on New Year's Day in 1863. Started in 1808. We kept getting our ass kicked to 1827. Abraham Lincoln signed into the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, not to free the slaves, but to preserve the Union Army. That same Union Army would go on, who we thought was to protect us, down to Florida, because there were so many slaves who didn't know where to go or what to do. And it led them into a big clay dirt cavern ditch. And if you look up the Devil's Punch Bowl, and I also did a commentary on the Devil's Punch Bowl down in Florida, where they push all of these African people into these ditches, and they couldn't climb out because it was too slimy, and they died right in there. You're talking hundreds of thousands. And peaches grow there now. But white folks won't touch the peaches because they know what the fertilizer is. The Devil's Punch Bowl. Look it up. Look it up on the 19 report. It's there. Did that about 10 years ago by God's permission. Now, the holiday became more associated with freedom than slavery when Abraham Lincoln did that. Slaves went to church to pray and sing on December 31st, 1862. They sang and they prayed that Abraham Lincoln would sign the Emancipation Proclamation that would say that they were free. That's why they went to church. You understand? And that's why there are still New Year's Eve prayer services at African American churches nationwide. As such, WatchNight services, congregants continue to pray for more widespread racial equality more than 150 years later. Now, are they doing that in your church? So now they started calling WatchNight service Freedom Day. Freedom Day. Which means you are freeing yourself from the bonds of psychological slavery and physical slavery and spiritual slavery. But how are you going to do that under the pretenses of offering your people gods and truths that does not apply to their reality? I know it's painful. I'm done. But I had to put that out there. It was called get the right name, and then we're gonna close, okay? Heartbreak Day. Heartbreak Day. That's what night watch service was called. Watch night service, Heartbreak Day. Because they were in 18 y'all forgive my memory. Again, I'm still under doctor's care. In 1862, December, they were in the church praying that that Emancipation Proclamation would be signed. And even after it was signed, that's where your Juneteenth comes from. Because in Texas, they weren't letting the slaves go. And it wasn't until someone came years later and said, oh, Abraham Lincoln signed this thing says y'all free. And that's where Juneteenth came from. And after that, when the slaves were set free, it said that they started to celebrate. in celebrating, which is what we do, which what y'all gonna do tonight. Y'all gonna celebrate New Year's. Y'all gonna celebrate. But we partied too hard because we didn't have a plan. So the slaves ended up standing in one spot saying, what is us gonna do now? Us ain't got nothing. And that's when the era of sharecropping came in, where the slave said, Master, if and you let us stay on your property, us farm your land for you. And if you give us a little bit, us a stay and give us a place to stay, because they were not taught how to survive. And they were beaten so much that they didn't have the courage to step out on their own or try to survive. Your toughest gangster still lives in Section 8, in the ghetto, in the hood. They try to make it a great thing. We're in the trap, nigga. Nigga, you in Section 8, which means you got a woman there that's got a bunch of children that the government is taking care of, and you stay with her. If you a real man, get your own spot. I don't care if you got to live in a box. When I knew it was time for me to leave home, I lived on the street in Manning, South Carolina for 3 months. After Hurricane Hugo and Morris College was destroyed, I didn't have no place to stay. I stayed on the street for 3 months. I found my way by God's permission. That's how I ended up cross town, in our beloved cross town. A friend of mine gave up his home to me and my family. And he went back home and allowed us to rent the place there, right next to Good Blood Shop. Derek Mack. Truth. All right. So you're going to party tonight. Sharecropping started, and our people were again mistreated, underpaid. And all of this is an effect of a cause and an effect of why our children are so lackluster in their desire to work today. So nasty, so nonchalant and uncaring. It's all connected. So the earth is moving. The earth is shaking. And the earth is crying out to us to do better and be better people. But are we going to answer? In closing, I talked to you about all of this, and I wanted to put this article up real quick in the Atlantic Black Star. FBI informant who reportedly helped stop the murder of a black man by the KKK says, the Klan is more prevalent and consequential than the agency would like to admit. December 31st, 2021. It ain't over. Because you can't just brush something off and forget it. It will come back. It recycles itself because you didn't solve the problem. We didn't solve the problem. In fact, we joined in with the problem. So we brag today about being like our captors. Look at me. Thank you all for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina. I certainly appreciate and I hope that you will like and share this information. It's the most powerful information you're going to receive from anybody at this point in time in South Carolina, pretty much, because once we get involved with money and we getting a little bit of money, money gives us convenient amnesia. But our children are going to die. A woman in Philadelphia who had helped the community so much today, 17 hours ago, was murdered coming out of a store. They took the life, and they're taking the lives of those of us who can make a difference. They took the life of Jesus, and the young cried for his death. The old sanctioned his death. Pontius Pilate said it is what it is. And the young wanted him gone. After all he did, where y'all get all this love for Jesus from today? If we get back in a situation like that where anybody that's a Christian will be thrown in the lion's den, are y'all going to be down with that? We'll see. It's coming. Thank you for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina.
Tell me like it is.